I thought you were showing us the picture.
Jackson?
You're fine. No, please, take your seat. So Jackson beat, yeah, you beat him. They say we're ready. Are we ready? Everybody?
Yeah, I think so.
I will call to order the Tippecanoe County Area Plan Commission Executive Committee for May 7th, 2025.
I think you need to hit it a couple
First
more
on the
times.
agenda is the roll call. First on the agenda is the roll call. Eric.
Are they hearing it? Too many mics on.
I don't think they're on.
Yeah. Turn the mics off,
Hello.
I guess.
Off?
Yeah. Okay, we're ready to start the meeting. Eric, you're up.
All right, I'll call the roll. Jackson Bogan.
Here.
Larry Leverance. Here. Diana Looper.
Here.
Tom Murtaugh.
Present.
Kathy Parker.
Here.
Jerry Reynolds.
Present.
Gary Schroeder.
Present.
Quorum present.
Thank you. Next, we do have a quorum. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes, Jerry.
I move to approve the minutes from April 2nd, 2025, public hearing as submitted.
I second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any comments or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Looks like the next one, new business, I need to recuse myself.
Jerry? Do you have to read this? No. Okay. Not yet. Okay. I move to hear and vote on request to authorize the belated subdivision extension request S 4096 Raintree Medical Park.
I second it.
Kathy?
Okay, so the subdivision approval for Raintree expired last month, just a couple of weeks ago. So the first thing we need to do by voice vote is to authorize the extension request.
All right, that is, the motion on the table is just to hear it. We can do that. Any questions at all? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Jerry?
Questions from the board?
No. Oh, we're past that.
Okay.
Next motion.
They ended up switching this from the next over.
There you go.
I move to hear and vote on primary approval extension request for S 4096 Raintree Medical Park.
I second it.
Okay, we're talking about extending the approval on Raintree Medical Park. Property is located here, just south of Franciscan Hospital, north of State Road 38. It is zoned MR, medical related. Here's a look at the aerial photograph. And a closer look. You can see there are two roads that sort of end, just end here and here. There are a couple of apartment buildings, and there are a couple of medical office spaces. Here's a look at the preliminary plat. The green highlighted area is the portion of the plat that has not been finalized. So that's what we're here to approve. There have been changes. There haven't been many changes in the subdivision regulations since 2009. Certainly none that would require this to restart the whole process. The conditions are still relevant, and we are recommending approval of this extension request.
Thank you, Kathy. Does petitioner or petitioner's representative wish to make a presentation?
Afternoon, Tim Balancy for T-Bird Design, representing Gary Schroeder. We agree with all staff comments and request approval here to answer any questions if you have any. Thanks.
Thank you. Does any member of the audience want to comment on this petition? Questions from the board? Anything? All right, we have a yellow ballot.
We have 6 ballots in favor of the extension.
Thank you. Would someone get Gary, please? Go and put that back over.
Okay, Jerry, looks like we're ready for PD 2505.
It's a resolution, right?
Resolution, yeah.
Okay. I move to hear and vote on resolution PD 25-05.
I second it.
Okay, Amanda, please.
All right, this is the Wesley Foundation of Purdue University. This rezone was heard and approved by West Lafayette back in September. Obviously, we're over in West Lafayette near campus. This is a PDMX rezone. Looking at an aerial here. The Wesley Foundation is looking to relocate from where they had been previously, and I assume building a much larger space that works better for their needs. It's a 4-story building. Is that it? Yes. So they have mixed use because there are offices, a couple of lounges, classroom space, and a great hall inside in addition to multifamily apartments. So they have 32 beds, a mix of 3-bed, 4-bed, and 9-bed congregate living units. Everything has been met. Bonding has been accepted by West Lafayette. So once they record their final detailed plans here that also include final plat, they'll be able to pull permits and start building. We're recommending approval.
Very good, thank you. Petitioner, the representative, please.
Ryan Munden with RTS Law here on behalf of Wesley Foundation and Purdue University. We concur with staff's report and recommendation and request your approval. Happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, Ryan. Anyone from the audience wish to speak to this? Questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, we have a yellow ballot.
We have a unanimous ballot for approval.
Very good. Thank you, Ryan. Next, we're going to enter a public hearing portion of the meeting. I have a statement to read. For those of you unfamiliar with our procedures, the commission would like for you to know the following. When we hear a request to subdivide land, we are only concerned as to whether the actual drawings showing the subdivision into lots meets the technical requirements of our ordinance. The question of appropriateness has already been determined. Anyone wishing to make a comment or provide us with information regarding any subdivision petition will be given an opportunity to do so. We're a 7-member body, and the majority of 7 is 4, regardless of how many commissioners are actually present. At least 4 votes in favor or 4 votes against are required for our action to be official. If fewer than 4 of us agree to either approve or disapprove the action, that case must be heard again next month. Our vote on a request to subdivide is final. When addressing the commission, please state your name and address for the record. I think we have a sign-up sheet over there, if you'd please sign. Please limit your statements to no more than 5 minutes, and we ask that you not repeat what others have said before you. Cell phones must be turned off while the meeting's in session. If you need to make a call, please step out of the room before using your phone. All exhibits presented to the commission become property of the commission. Jerry.
I move that there be incorporated into the public hearing portion of each application to be heard this evening and become part of the evidence at such hearing: the unified zoning ordinance, the unified subdivision ordinance, the comprehensive plan, the bylaws of the Area Plan Commission, the application, and all documents filed therewith, the staff report and recommendations on applications, and to be heard this evening in the response from the checkpoint agencies.
I second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Next case, Jerry.
I move to hear and vote on S 5262 Winborn Rural Estate. Real estate preliminary.
I
Sorry.
second it.
Okay, no problem. Kathy.
Okay, petitioner's property is located on the east side of County Road 100 East, just north of 750 South. The property was rezoned to RE, Rural Estate, back in March by the county commissioners. Here's a look at the aerial photograph and a closer look at the property. There's a waterway or creek that sort of runs right through here where these trees are. And that separates this tract over here from where the private drive, Rural Estate Road, is going to be put in right over here. Here's a look at the preliminary plat. You can see there are 6 lots within the rural estate that will be using this private drive. And then lot 11, because of this waterway, they would have to build a bridge in order to connect. Unfortunately, the subdivision ordinance requires rural estate lots all get access from the rural estate road, which is really not possible here. So instead, they have filed a variance, which was heard by the county commissioners and approved, but it also has to be approved by the executive committee. So lot 11 will obtain access from this ingress-egress easement down to 750 South. We have the approval of the health department. Oh, the Stables Event Center, Stables Event Center is just to the north of here. Also, petitioner did a 4-lot minor subdivision, which is just to the south, which is why this one starts with lot 5. So lots 1 through 4 are to the south, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There are 15 conditions of approval. Staff is recommending approval of the variance request and also recommending conditional primary approval of the rural estate.
Very good. Thank you, Kathy. Is that a minor? Just a minor? It's not a major needing bonding?
It's a rural estate, which acts like a major, so yes, there will be bonding.
Okay.
Or that's a
Maybe
possibility.
mention. Okay, thank you, Bob. Petitioner, the representative, please.
Hi, I'm Laura Martin with RW Gross & Associates for Winborn and representing Greg Suter. I'm here to answer any technical questions, and we have read the entire staff report and agree to the conditions.
Very good. One question before you leave. She mentioned the variances. Is there one variance or just one variance? I see our ballot has 3 on it, so we're just going, just one. Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone from the audience wish to comment on this? Questions or comments from the commission? I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I'm Scott Bond. This is my wife, Jackie Bond, 7025 South 100 East. We are the owners of the Stables Event Center, which is bordering Lot 11, the 10-acre plot. And just for the record, I mean, I think 5 years ago, when we built this, made a pretty substantial investment in building this venue. And we had some things we had to do back then. One was a setback. We had to be, I think at the time it was 1,000 feet from the nearest dwelling. We had to make sure that conversation even since then has been about noise ordinances and how far these agriculture rental halls need to be from the road or from the nearest dwelling, and can you or can you not have outdoor music, amplified music. So I think we've got that set, how far we need to be away from the road. We just need to know moving forward, we're not against expansion. That's going to happen. It's just we made a pretty substantial investment, and we need to know, is that reciprocated? If somebody wants to build there, do they have to be 1,000 feet from our venue? Future expansion, if I want to come back and say, hey, I want to build on over this to the north, am I going to be too close to that neighboring housing? I guess the other thing is, we're open from 8 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week. We've been approved to do that. And we certainly don't want any issues with our neighbors. We see what's happened with some of these venues and dropping them right in on top of a neighborhood. It doesn't end well. And it's still going on. So for us, it's not about the expansion and subdividing. It's just to protect us and our investment as we move through this project. What can be done? Is there going to be any is there a setback for whomever's going to build? What's the solution for this, for these agricultural rental halls, I think is what we need to know as business owners.
Good question, and I think staff's going to answer that.
Okay.
Do you have anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay.
No,
Very good.
thank you.
If you're ready, Amanda.
So the 1,000-foot separation was intended more as a protection for the residents from the halls, for the noise produced by those halls. So having new houses being built within that 1,000-foot separation, they're going into it knowing full well what's in the neighborhood. So that's the intent. The intent was to protect the residents. So presumably if a resident is going to build closer than 1,000 feet, they're doing so knowingly.
Knowing that what our business is.
Correct. You have an approved business there in the neighborhood.
I do have a question to that. Okay, so if they build within 600 foot of our building and we want to expand, add storage or whatever, because I need storage, but if we were going to do that, how is that going to affect us to improve our business?
Good question.
Any expansion of a previously approved special exception would have to get a new approval from the BZA unless it was already on your site plan that was approved. At that time, we would look at your site plan to make sure that it complies with all aspects of the ordinance. So in that case, I believe a variance would be required to be approved for that 600-foot setback instead of 1,000 feet.
But that doesn't seem fair to us as a business with that 1,000-foot setback is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
And maybe that's something we look at, that in other cases, if somebody moves in, you're still considered to be in compliance. We do that with road right-of-ways, I think is the only case. But
Yeah. And it would all depend, too, on where that house gets built. You're closest to that lot 11. That lot is 800 feet wide, so it's very possible that your building is going to be plenty far away.
But if they don't, what we want to do is protect ourselves, that we're not constricted or told we can't do our business.
Yep. Good question. Maybe something we can discuss in the future. Any other comments about this particular case? Questions or comments from the board? Jackson?
And so do they run into an issue in the event of a catastrophe, right? Grandfathering to where now there's a house, let's just say it's 600 feet. The existing stables as it sits today is destroyed by a storm. They want to rebuild it back, but now because it is non-conforming,
For their original approval,
they would still be able to,
if they meet the
without filing for a variance?
clause kick in.
No. Let's say it's all gone.
Yeah.
Because today they're conforming.
Use, but yeah, because the site plan connected with the special exception is
the plan they go by. So if there was to be a natural disaster, they could rebuild what was approved.
Even if it was 100% demolished?
I'd have to look at that. Because the typical rule with grandfathering is that kind of 50% of the value, if there's the casualty's greater than 50%, then you have to comply with the current ordinance. So I'd just have to make sure that that same general clause apply to special exceptions. So it probably would. Just because
How do we put the stables at ease
legal
from
research would be needed.
we were here first, if you will?
Mm-hmm. Pardon?
How do we put the stables at ease? Because they did make an investment, they did do this, and now all of a sudden, if something happens after the fact, they may not, or may or may not. We can't answer that 100% today.
Yeah, not without knowing what their details are of what they want to do. As Amanda said, they're, based on how this site develops, they're probably going to be sufficient distance, but regardless, if they want to exceed what they're already doing now, if they want to, they want to expand, whatever, the business is booming, they would still need to come in for another special exception anyway. Sure. So I guess at that time, even prior to them delivering a petition, staff would work with them to kind of get a lay of the land and see, where they are, based on what's developed around them since. But yeah, certainly, nothing changes for them just because, as you said, they were there first, So, but should they choose to expand, then there may potentially be an issue. But to a certain extent, that's just the nature of development, as it comes and goes. So that there's protections when you first come in, but then if the situation changes around you over time, you may need to get a variance. And honestly, that's a good case for a variance. It's like, well, we were here first.
Yeah, fair enough.
And, from a staff's position, that's pretty reasonable, to allow a variance. Like, well, this is a business that was here first, housing's going around them. This, and so the BZA could provide relief, and they could expand as they like, so.
So I think to answer your question, Jackson, you had to take a change in the ordinance that said that they would be compliant if someone built closer, like we do with a highway right-of-way. Somebody takes it and you're within your setback, you're still in compliance automatically. So that's something we could talk about at the ordinance committee. But they make a good case if you just come back, would they get a variance, from the BZA? Maybe, but something we could discuss.
Great.
Any other questions?
So there's really no guarantee that these people have any protection. Number one, weather. Number two, if the house is too close. I understand what you're talking about. If weather takes the foundation, they can build back on the same foundation. But any kind of expansion, we all spent many hours in here handling these venues, and this happened to be one. But you're telling us that it may be okay and it may not be okay, or they may have a chance to expand, or they may not have a chance to expand, or I guess I'm not under.
Yeah, if they, say that development happens around them and they find themselves in a grandfathered state, the way that, that grandfathering, runs with the property, unless they, redevelop the site, change the use. And then if there is a kind of a natural disaster, where, more than 50% of the value of the property has been, taken down, then, they would have to abide by the ordinance. They still enjoy the right to apply for variances in those cases too, and say, well, yeah, it's more value was taken away from us because of a storm, but we just simply want to rebuild what we had, And have documented many cases before the BZA where they've granted those variances. You know, it's not an unreasonable request. It's just, it goes through the BZA to kind of certify that we're essentially restoring what you had before. You know, they show less leniency historically for, you know, situations that aren't that, you know, where they weren't the first ones there, you know. So, yeah, so, I mean, there's no 100% guarantees in life, so this, you know, there could be situations that might, you know, cause us to deviate, but, you know, this is, you know, not an unreasonable situation where, you know, they were there first, development has gone around them, and, you know, should they choose to expand, well, they could come in for a new special exception. If they're, you know, if they meet the requirements of the ordinance because all the houses are still really far away, then there's no variances would be needed. But in the event that they did need a variance, you know, they have a very strong case for receiving one because, again, they were there first. And that does mean something. So, you know, I think they should take some comfort in that. I'm not just spinning a yarn here. So,
Any other questions? Yes, Dinah.
I just had a question. Why is it that they had to be 1,000 feet and the new houses don't have to be 1,000 feet from them?
well, the 1,000 feet is tied to the use. And so, you know, the property owners that are establishing a use on a property have setbacks. You know, that doesn't mean that, you know, that setback is now imposed on somebody else in this situation. So, yeah, so they have the ability, you know, they have to abide by the terms of their zone. So in this case, the RE zone has its own development requirements. If they've met it, they can build their home and off they go. They don't have to abide by, you know, what agricultural rental hall requires of them because they're not an ag rental hall. So it's really that simple.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions, comments from the board? So we have a variance ballot first, just one variance, and that's for the lot in the back to get access from a different lot. And then, I'm assuming, did they want bonding on that for conditional approval?
Yeah.
Okay. Permission to bond then on the second ballot. Yep, true. We'll give them the option. Now, just a comment, Mr. Bond, while they're collecting ballots, just a suggestion for you to consider. If someone were to come in the future and plant a house within your 1,000-foot, you might consider just coming and get your variance right away. I know that's a burden on you, but you've been in here before and you guys follow the rules, I know that, but then you would know going forward with that you're still in compliance. And it's just kind of a quirk in the ordinance. I mean, you got 1,000, but you're not restricting people to come into your zone, but.
Sorry.
Anyway.
Sorry about that.
So next, I think we're going to approve the budget down at the bottom, right? We're all the way through, we're right here.
Yeah. You went this way.
Use the old bid there first. Yeah, that's the one we want. Yeah, and then is there anything on the next page? There's a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, we'll do that one first.
I moved to place.
Well, let's see the votes first.
Oh, pardon me.
We have a unanimous ballot of approval for the variance. And also for the subdivision itself.
Very good, thank you. Now, Jerry will take approval of the May APC public hearing agenda.
I moved to place Uzo amendment, 118 and 119 on May 21st, 2025 area plan public hearing agenda.
I second it.
All's in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
I move the following subdivisions be placed on May 21st, 2025 area plan public hearing agenda at petitioner's request. Placement of there without reference to compliance and non-compliance with the adopted subdivision ordinance.
I second it.
Oh, wait a second.
S 5269 Timberbrook Estates subdivision, major preliminary.
Okay,
I
second.
second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, that motion carries. Jerry.
I move the following rezone petition be placed on May 21st, 2025 area plan commission public hearing. Z 2980 Franciscan Sisters of Chicago Service Corporation, R2 and PDRS to PDRS, and Z 2982 area plan commission, A and NB to AA.
I second it.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, that motion carries. BZA.
I move the following petitions be placed on May 28th, 2025 area board zoning appeals public hearing agenda. BZA 2195 Jeffrey and Jordan Florak, BZA 2196 Milestone Contractors LP, and BZA 2197 Nico LLC.
I second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. Jerry.
I move the following special exception request will not adversely affect the comprehensive plan. BZA 2196 Milestone Contractors LP and BZA 2197 Nico LLC.
I second it.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, that motion carries. Determination of variances.
I move the following request for variance of the unified zoning ordinance is not a request for the use of variance prohibited from consideration by the ordinance and statute. 2025-09 RSK Property Management LLC.
I second it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. Budget report.
I move to approve the April 2025 budget report as submitted.
I second it.
Ryan.
Yes, a couple things to point out. We've added a gasoline and oil line item to our supplies. This is to serve our new county vehicle that's been assigned to us for primarily zoning enforcement activities, but it subsequently can be used for other APC duties, site work and that sort of thing.
Okay.
So I will be making an appearance next week before County Council to get that funded. And we sort of basing our initial number off of kind of what the Building Commission has been doing. We'll see if that works for us. We've never been in a situation like this before, so we'll kind of learn as we go. And that'll help kind of inform the summer budget hearings as well. And then on the legal side, we have been pursuing, we currently have 3 cases of zoning enforcement that have gotten legal. And so obviously we're drawing down on those legal services. We do so, very reluctantly get to that point when there's no other remedy to move forward. But we feel in these 3 cases and potentially a 4th that it's warranted. So we'll be monitoring this. We've obviously not pursued zoning enforcement this aggressively, especially since we have a new officer and we've been charged by the commissioners to really look at this issue. So there may be a need to bump this line item up for this current year as we go. We'll see how we progress. But that'll also sort of inform our decisions for requests for the summer budget hearings as well. So just wanted to let you know what's going on there. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Very good. Any other questions for Ryan? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the budget report say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. Any other business?
We have none.
None. I'll take that final motion, Jerry.
I move we adjourn.
Okay, we're adjourned, and since we have a big agenda, let's go ahead and call to order. I will call to order the Tippecanoe County Area Plan Commission Ordinance and Bylaw Committee for May 7th, 2025. And we do have a quorum present, and I'll take that first motion for someone to approve the minutes from the April 2nd, 2025 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any corrections or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Now we have 3 agenda items. We have a lot of people here, and we got roughly a little less than an hour left. There's 2 very quick items that we might want to run through first, if that's okay. So we're going to skip down and create new zoning district R1C. If we can run through that real quick, please. Yep.
All right. This is really kind of in the spirit of what we did with the townhouse zones. The Builders Association of Greater Lafayette had approached us with this request about creating a new zoning district that's slightly smaller than R1B. And so using that and the existing R1U district, we kind of created this hybrid, and we're just giving it the next letter down since we have R1A, B, this will be C, for essentially a smaller lot, single-family detached zone. And so it was vetted with our administrative officers. There was a good, healthy back and forth, and there were some compromises made kind of on every side, and we kind of zeroed in on something good that I think will work. Essentially, these are minimum 40-foot wide lots with a minimum of 4,400 square feet lot sizes. And so, and then setbacks that are basically in line with R1B. And so the homes could be rear-loaded, front-loaded. That's not regulated, so that's up to the designer. But we think this is another, useful tool, just like the townhouse district was. And we'll see if it takes. So we're happy to pass it along.
Very good.
And it is already on the agenda for this month, but we just took the advantage of this time to just bring you up to speed on it.
Steve, for the builders, you want to have a comment for us, please?
Steve Schreckengas, 635 South Earl Avenue, Lafayette, part owner of Citation Homes, but today representing the Builders Association. This process started in December. It's been in front of the Ordinance Committee meeting a couple of times, a lot of interaction with county and Lafayette and West Lafayette. And we've kind of crafted this, and I will compliment staff. We started, this first discussion was December of this last year, and we've had a good working relationship in getting this so everybody seems happy. And this just gives us one more tool for our toolbox to try to create some affordable, detached, single-family homes. So we agree with staff and hopefully move it on. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Steve. Anyone else from the audience wish to address this, speak to this? Questions or comments from the commission? Hearing none. So do we need an ordinance to move this on? It's already on the agenda, so I just take a motion to move this on with a positive recommendation to the full commission.
So moved.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Next one, expanding courthouse proximity to Upper Main Street area.
Good evening. Last month, we met to talk about this amendment to the zoning ordinance. This is an expansion of the courthouse proximate at Upper Main Street area. Since at least 1998, there has been a provision in the zoning ordinance that prohibits first-floor residences in certain areas of downtown, with the exception of a non-elevator building permitted one ADA unit, and one is allowed to be located behind a first-floor storefront. So it's allowed in those certain instances. Last month when we met, we looked at the proposed area, and there were a couple of properties that we talked about in particular that were going to become non-conforming. So Dennis Carson from the city of Lafayette is here to talk about that. He had approached both owners, and they were okay with this. So we'll let Dennis fill in the rest of us here.
Very good. Thank you for that. Dennis.
Good afternoon, Dennis Carson, Economic Development Director for the City of Lafayette. And as was said by staff here, I did contact the 2 owners of the properties that were affected by this. The first property, the 511, 513 Columbia Street, owned by Stuart Probst. I did contact him via email and followed up with phone call. We discussed it at length. staff and I felt like their particular property falls in that one exception about a non-elevator building and having a residential unit on the first floor. Stewart agreed with that as well, too. You know, we said we would support that in the future if needed and such, so he was okay with that. The other property, which is the Lahr House, which is on the south side of the Lahr House, the Columbia Street side, where there are residences there, again, sent an email and then followed up with phone calls with them. I've explained the situation. He was okay with it as well, too. They already have part of the building on the north side is already in the existing courthouse proximate district that's affected in the same way. So they were okay with it as well, too. So happy to answer any other questions.
Very good. Thank you for doing that, Dennis.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Vicki?
I just have a quick question on the Columbia Street, because this says it's legally conforming. So is it legally conforming or will it be non-conforming?
It should be non-conforming, correct, yeah.
I mean, what I'm reading on here, maybe I'm misreading something.
I can't see it. If you're talking about the Stewart,
What was on this?
what's the address there? Is that 511?
1511 is what was in our report.
Okay, I thought you said it didn't have an elevator, so first floor units conforming.
It's going to remain, we're accepting it out, is that what we're saying? Or we're saying it's going to be?
Did I understand that?
What property are we talking about?
The 511, 513 that he talked to Stewart about?
Yes, so it's legally conforming. It meets the exception that we outlined in footnote 51, or 52, sorry. So it is legally conforming.
So we're,
Yeah, it's fine. To be considered like an ADA unit, no elevator in the building, so you have to have a first floor unit.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
got it.
Okay.
Any other questions? Comments? So same thing. Thank you
Okay,
for
thank you.
following up with them. and
Sure.
Very good. So we just need a motion to send this forward with a positive recommendation for expanding the courthouse proximity on Upper Main Street area.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Vicki?
I want to thank Dennis for reaching out, but I will say I'm happy that it did go this way, but it's still concerning to me that everybody else that's in those zones are not contacted.
Were there other people? Is that
I
what you?
don't know. I'm just
Okay.
saying, it's like we do this at the broad brush, and then we find out after the fact, oh, we didn't realize there was another property. And this would have been a perfect example. I appreciate that we did take the time to do it, but again, those other folks have not been contacted, so we don't know if there's an outlier. That's all
Right.
I'm saying.
Good point. And for clarification, since this is a use, it's not, you can't vary it? Can you get a variance on that? Cannot, because it's a use. Yep, okay, so, okay. Note taken. Any other comments? Hearing none, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries. Amanda, now we're back to rezoning prime farmland in Wabash, Tippecanoe Townships.
All right. So, back in early last year, the Wabash and Tippecanoe Township Land Use Plan was adopted. This was a public process where we received input from residents of both townships. And part of that plan included recommendations for APC to follow up adoption of the plan by making sure that the zoning followed the recommendations, followed the recommendations of the plan. So we are acting on those recommendations by proposing two township-wide, not exactly township-wide, but rezones of all properties in, it's kind of outlined there in that lighter green color, to our select agricultural zoning district. The intent of this district is to provide areas identified within the adopted comprehensive plan as having either highest or a combination of high and highest potential for agricultural use, where no urbanization has occurred, and which are to be reserved for the wide range of agricultural activities and the homes primarily of those engaged in such activities and of their families. So in studying this area, we removed all properties that were 6 acres or less and were not being farmed, obviously. So there were a few that were included that are being farmed currently that are 6 acres or less that we heard from those property owners. Either they recently started building a home on that previously farmed land or are planning on building a home on land that is currently being farmed. And anybody who reached out to us has been removed from that list of proposed rezoning. So our contact in this case included sending a letter to all property owners that were impacted. Let me go back one. Can I go back one? Thank you. So there were 159 unique property owners included in this rezone, about 300 unique property ID numbers, so 300 different tracts of land. Every property owner was mailed a letter that included information about the select agricultural zoning district, how it differs from their current ag zoning, which every property but one is currently zoned agricultural. Select agricultural just takes it one step further away from development with the intent of preserving it from that development. That letter also included information on how to contact our office if they had any questions, and invited them to come to this meeting as well as the APC meeting where the official rezone would be heard, followed by, of course, the county commissioners meeting. So, as I said, we started with the entire area and then removed properties that were 6 acres or less or were not obviously being farmed. And we've received approximately 10 phone calls or emails from property owners since that notices were mailed. 2 of them were in support of the rezone, and 8 of them were against and wanted their properties removed from this rezone, which we have included that whole list in your packets of all the property ID numbers with those properties crossed out. If anybody else wishes to opt out of this rezone, they are more than welcome to do so. It's not on the, it might not be on the digital packet, that list of this one here.
No, it's not on here. Thank you, Jerry.
You got it?
Take Jerry's too.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is on here. Take them all.
Thank you.
Okay. It's just a list of the state key numbers with their property owner and their mailing address is what you're looking at there.
Okay.
Okay. Some common concerns that we were hearing from some of the people who were calling in or emailing was that farming is the only use that is going to be allowed in these zoning districts. That is not true. Farming and agricultural activities related to farming are allowed, as well as homes for anybody. Honestly, you can build a single-family home in any AA zoning district. Right, right. Subdivisions. You just can't subdivide like other rural areas too. Another concern was that property values would decrease. We took a preliminary look at the 2023 assessed values of farmland across Shelby, which does have AA zoning, Wabash and Tippecanoe. The difference between those 3 townships was only $5 per acre. So from Shelby that has AA zoning to Wabash and Tippecanoe with A zoning, it's a fairly minimal difference in assessed value. The biggest impact for this is for future rezone attempts. Whenever APC hears a rezone from A to any development zone, such as a residential or commercial, it's slightly easier depending, of course, on the presence of sewer and water. When you hear a rezone from AA to a development zone, it's a little bit tougher to quantify or to qualify that because, it is supposed to preserve the land for agricultural purposes. Most of these areas are far enough removed from current sewer and water extents that they wouldn't see that kind of public utilities that would allow development in the first place anytime in the next 15 to 20 years. So that was something else that goes into recommending AA zoning in the land use plan. We look at the extent of the public utilities. As I said, AA zoning already exists in other townships. Back in the 80s is when we first introduced AA and AW, agricultural wooded. APC sponsored township-wide rezones at that time to rezone certain properties to both AA and AW, starting with the less populous areas. The rezone for Tippecanoe Township at that time saw a little bit of opposition, so Tippecanoe, Wabash, Washington, Fairfield, and Wea just never got those rezones to AA, we're kind of catching up to ourselves at this point. So I included in the slideshow here 2 additional maps. Let's keep going here. These were all mailed out to the property owners as well so that they can see what their current zoning is and what their proposed zoning is. Because the area is so large, there are 4 different maps that we had to break it down into. Map area 2. And you can see in the proposed zoning map, all those smaller sections of lighter green, those are going to remain A zoning, agricultural. Here. And that's all I have. So happy to answer any questions.
Very good. One question, just for clarification before
Sure.
we get started. Basically, if you go AW, it just kind of stops development except ag use, which is farming and housing. There's no commercial development allowed in AW.
There are certain commercial endeavors that are allowed that are related to agricultural activities, but very limited in nature.
Okay.
It's generally assumed that you can perform those commercial activities in these areas, obviously, but maybe the offices or where they store their equipment should be in an area that's further away from the soils,
Okay.
from those productive soils.
Very good. Any other quick questions for Amanda?
Yes, Amanda, could you go over the numbers again for me? So
Sure.
how many were sent out? How many letters?
159 letters for 353 unique state ID numbers.
Okay. And how many did you hear from? How many opted out?
Opted out, we had 8 individuals opt out. Some of them had multiple key numbers. I could do a quick count here, but yeah.
So that's 8 of the 159?
Yes.
Okay. And then how many, you said you received X number of contacts, either by phone or by email?
I think there were 11 total contacts.
So 3 folks said, this is good, I want to stay.
Yeah.
Okay.
3, I had 2.
2, maybe it was 10 total, sorry, 10
Okay.
total, 8 opted out, 2
Okay.
said it was okay.
Amanda?
Yes.
So if anybody here just opposes this, they just simply say, I want my parcel out, and
I
they're
have
out.
the list, I'm ready to scratch it off.
I mean, it's that easy.
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Very
I have a
good.
quick question on
Yes.
going to AA. I couldn't hear what was being said over here, so I understand not being able to necessarily be a subdivision or something like that. But the parcelization of, like, you know, where it's an 80-acre tract, or you're allowed 4 parcelizations out of a tract, that's still going to be permissible, correct?
Still
We're just
allowed.
not looking at large subdivisions.
Right, right. And they likely wouldn't be allowed anyway because of the lack of sewer and water.
I have another quick question that's not so much on this topic. I'm just curious, like, how this came forward without ordinance even having any idea that it was coming forward before the letters went out. I thought things came to us to give us an idea that this was going to be heard or seen. Maybe that's not the channels. and I
It was a
don't understand.
recommendation of the plan. We were
But I guess
acting
it's
on
the
the
timing of
plan.
it, given that
Mhm.
it's right during planting season when everybody's in the fields. So I was just curious.
We can slow walk this. We don't have to go real fast, so everybody has a chance to respond. So,
Yeah,
All
and I'm a little disappointed that that you have to opt out and not opt in. Because I worry about, a lot of folks here that may not, may not have received the letter in some fashion, or, snowbirds, I don't know, that, and don't know that this is going on.
Sure, sure.
So I
Fair
think
enough.
in the future, I think it would be much better to have an opt-in instead of an opt-out.
I had the same thought. Is that a motion, Tom?
I think.
It might be too late for this.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I think every rezone that we have proposed was always an opt-out rezone option. So that we're building on what we've always done in the past that has worked for us. We did make it a point to, Dave Bangert posted an article. We have shared this on our Facebook as widely as we can. There's a website or a link on our website about it. The letters that we mailed out included a flyer with a QR code on it, so we have done everything that we could to notify the public about this. Not to mention, the plan was widely publicized too, which had this recommendation in it.
How long do they have before they can opt out?
Well, this was advertised and filed for this month's May APC, but we could continue that if Ordinance Committee opted to continue it or continue the conversation to another month.
Okay.
And this is actually a question for Vicki. I mean, you live in this area. Do you feel, or maybe it's a good question for some of the folks here, do you feel like this area is well-informed about this particular?
I've heard some chatter. I will say I was surprised, and I'm one of the houses, every neighbor got it, but because we're less than 6, so I had no idea what was going on and was shocked. I understand it was in the plan, but didn't know it was coming forward at this time, right? So I feel like they need one more month, not to slow it up, but we are in the crunch time of farming, and there could be people that are in the fields that couldn't attend tonight. I don't know. I would like to wait for a month.
I think that makes perfect sense. I don't know that we're in any huge rush here.
No, I think we'll hear some public comment, and maybe we'll have a good feeling by the end. I'm assuming there's a lot of people here that want to speak, and I'll move into that. Now, we have a 5-minute rule, but I'm wondering if we should try to keep that to 3 minutes, hear as many people as we can. Obviously, say what you need to say. Obviously, if you want to opt out, go see Amanda. She'll scratch off the list, but we do want to hear public input. So anybody who wants to speak to this issue, please come forward.
There's a sign-in sheet, I assume.
Yeah, we can get it afterward.
Good evening, Steve Kirko, 7901 North, 300 West. I've got several acres involved in this. The letter we received, there was no phone numbers included. That's why I'm here tonight. I didn't know exactly who to call to find any information out. I guess I should have done a little more research, but like I say, that's why I'm here tonight. There was nothing said about being able to opt out, and I'm afraid that there still may be people that didn't receive the letter and may not know about the opt-out option. So,
Okay, good
thank
point,
you.
Steve. Thank you, Steve. Anyone else wish to speak to this? And I'd say, Steve, if you want to opt out, just give Amanda, you'll do that. Very good. Yes, next, please. Afterwards, it's fine.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Don Leahy. We farm in MAP 4 area. A question that we had, and I'm not necessarily opposed to this, it's just a question I have. What about, what happens with an existing project, solar farm? What happens in that case, in that rezoned district? Is that is that going to be affected, is my question.
I'm not sure I understand your question. So there's a proposed solar farm, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there is a proposed solar farm in that area, and I was just curious.
We'll have an answer
how
for you
that
here.
would be
Yeah,
affected.
I believe we usually go by a building permit would be the trigger. You using building permit as a trigger?
For individual solar installations, yes, it would be just a building permit, but I believe they're talking about a large-scale solar installation. They are still allowed by special exception in A, which is your current zoning, AA, which we're proposing to go to, and AW. So nothing changes in regards to the zoning related to the solar.
But you have the opt-out ability.
Pardon me?
You have the opt-out ability, or whoever's doing the solar farm has the opt-out ability at this point, and it makes it a completely
Okay, so
non-issue.
It's not retroactive, in other words.
No,
So-
because they're still allowed in the AA, and AW. So the zone would still be allowed, but still needs a special exception like any solar farm. So
Correct.
it would not affect a proposed solar farm. Good question.
Okay, and just a side question too. What about road projects? I know there's potential for something up in that area also, a state highway issue.
Won't affect it.
Oh, are we talking about 231?
Yes.
Okay. Roads are allowed anywhere. Zoning does not impact where a road can go. If a road's going to be built somewhere, it can still be built in AA zoning. It's up to the builder and the county NDOT.
Okay, thank you.
Very good question. Next, please. Anyone else wishing to speak?
My name is Kyle Spray, and I'm representing the NOLA Gentry Trust as a farm manager. And I just had a couple of questions in regards to the road and other places within the land use plan. It mentions a widening of Highway 43 to 4 lanes up to perhaps Brookston. It also mentions 231, and I was wondering if there was any forethought or plans for utilities to be run along with those roads.
Good question. I don't think we're addressing that tonight, but that'd be a question for the staff on the roads, the transportation department, unless you know something, Amanda.
I do know that 231 is actually a feasible project that NDOT is interested in building. Additional studies are going to be done of that area to determine if the zoning is appropriate and, the road, where the road would be best suited to go. Does that answer your question?
I think we don't have that on the agenda in utilities, but could Doug or someone at least let him know what's going on right now, which is probably nothing?
Yeah, definitely.
call
If you
the
wanted to
staff.
reach out or call, we can put you in touch with our transportation planner.
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
One other question unrelated to that. I was just curious if there were any assessment or taxing or other incentives for AA zoning opposed to the single A zoning. And I didn't quite understand the distinction between Shelby Township and Wabash and Tippecanoe in terms of the tax difference.
I think the assessed value is maybe not based on zoning, but what's happening on the land and market conditions in the area. So it's really not tied to zoning as far as I know.
Thank you.
That'd be a question for the
Assessor.
assessor's office.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Next, anyone else wishing to speak, please? A lot of people here, we want to hear what you got to say or what your thoughts are. Thank you.
I just have a few comments. I'm a owner, but I didn't get any notification. It went to my father right there, who's 96, so I never got the notice.
I'm sorry, Kelly, just tell us your name for the record.
Kelly Bush, 724 Northridge Drive. So I think that there are a number of people who may not have gotten notice if they were an additional owner. So it came to my attention late. I will verify that I have opted out of anything under my name. But I am just kind of curious of how many people participated in this study that you base this on, because all the growth is going northwest. You've got subdivisions going right up to the property that we're opting out of. And this is not like Shelby or Wabash or whatever you've mentioned in terms of growth. Economic development, they're trying to get all this industry and all this housing in West Lafayette. I do not understand why you would go AA when it's already A. If someone wants to stay agricultural, they will. I do not see the need for this. I think it's a hassle for everyone. I don't think this should be happening, especially when West Lafayette is growing more than most cities in the state. So I think it shouldn't even be happening. And I think everyone should stay A and proceed like normal instead of these unique circumstances for AA that I do not understand. And I don't know how many people participated in this study, but I didn't get it. And it probably wasn't many.
Yeah.
So that's it.
There were some
Thank you.
public hearings, but go ahead.
The comprehensive plan update that we did for Wabash and Tippecanoe involved around 200 people from those townships. We gathered input at 2 or 3 different public input sessions and hosted 2 public open houses before the plan was adopted by the APC and county commissioners.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Otto Doring, Tucker Farms, 2186 Tecumseh Park Lane, West Lafayette. We have 2 parcels that would be affected by this, one of which is the corner border parcel by the 5 Corners on Morehouse Road, which is a very tight area if you look at the expansion plans. I basically asked my kids, would they like this land to remain in farming? And they both immediately said yes. And the other thing is, I've got to have some land in farming so Steve Kirkove can farm it. And that presents a little bit of a dilemma there.
Okay.
It is really important to have our top quality farmland be contiguous and have a big enough area so that, among other things, the various service companies won't relocate somewhere else, the people who spray for us, the people who do other things for us. You need this whole backdrop of support activities for agriculture. And if your agricultural area becomes fractured and little bits and pieces off in corners, you lose that. You also lose the ability to deal with the neighbors when you try to take the combine down the road. And so this really is an important concept. I don't think we're going to opt out because I'd like to, it looks as though I'm one of the dams against the river with this development. But I think it's really important what the planners are trying to do. And I think it's a very valuable thing for the future. We're losing farmland at too great a rate today in the United States because we think we have unlimited amounts. Thank you.
Very good. So were you one of the ones that opted in? Were you one of the two that said you'd like to do that?
Neither one. I have not done it. I'm commenting, and I think we will opt in.
Okay.
If my kids still feel as strongly as they do, and I think they will.
Okay, very good, thank you. Next, please.
Steve Ratcliffe, 401 East 500 North. I don't know how many parcels I and my partners have up there, but we'll look. But I concur with Councilmember Pearl and Commissioner Murtaugh that this needs a 30-day tabling so that everyone can explore all their options of opt-in, opt-out, and how they want to proceed forward with this. Thank you.
Okay, very good, thank you, Steve. Next, please. We're here till 6, not till 2 o'clock in the morning like West Lafayette, but, so we got.
Last gentleman was
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
My name is Nathan Hurt, and I live at 8300 100 West in West Lafayette. And my question is what is the difference of zoning from A to AA? So I graduated from West Lafayette in 03, and I run a landscaping business. And in the USDA rules, anything over 10 acres is considered a mini farm, and landscaping is considered a business of that sort. So my question is, if we rezone this stuff, am I now allowed to have more livestock because I'm an ag farm, or am I not? What are the zoning differences between A and AA?
Good question.
What are those requirements? Can I build, you know?
Amanda will answer those for us, please.
Yeah, livestock is perfectly fine in both zoning districts. I think mainly it's the commercial enterprises, their actual locations being in AA that would not be allowed. We do have a table that shows the breakdown of the difference between A and AA. I apologize, I didn't bring one with me. Somebody just ran down to get it, but we can provide one too.
And so under USDA rules, you can have 299 head of livestock without a CAFO.
If you'd come up to the microphone, please. Thank you.
Under USDA rules, you can have up to 299 head of pigs, chickens, whatever on your property without having a CAFO permit. We have more than 10 acres. If we are AA, we are considered an ag business at that point. Is that going to be allowed?
Yes, that's not a problem.
Next to a subdivision.
That's not a problem.
As
That's
long as-
not the kind, yeah, that's not the kind of ag business that we're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
You have to meet the state
You're fine.
regulations, but
Yes,
anyway.
you're fine.
Thank you. Anyone else, please? Nick, surely you have something to say. No? Okay. So sue easy then, okay? Okay. Okay. Well, we're just trying to make sure everybody got notified is the issue. Yeah, come back. Since there's nobody else, I'll let you speak again, please.
Thank you. Having heard these comments has kind of brought up my original issue. Will there be a difference on what gets qualified under AA or A? I mean, is there a definition of what will be allowed in one and not the other? I guess was kind of my original concern.
He's got a list.
Yeah, we have a copy of our permitted use table here that's been simplified down to show just A and AA, and whether it's permitted with a P. If it's blank, it means that it's not allowed. If it has an S, it means you need a special exception. There are very, very few differences. Just going down the list here, we're seeing things like veterinary services are allowed in A, but not in AA. And we're talking about not using a veterinary on your farm, that's perfectly fine, but the office of a veterinary, the shop, the building where it's located would not be allowed in AA. Landscape and horticultural services, so again, the shop, that commercial business would not be allowed in AA.
So in each individual case, there'll have to be a decision made as to whether it qualifies or not.
Right. If you have a concern, I'd opt out, and you can always change it later. It's easier to change, go to AA than get out of AA. I would
Okay,
say.
thank you.
That's my guess.
Yeah. $500.
Hello, my name is Joe Sobrowski, 938 Chepstow Lane, West Lafayette. I love this plan, hearing about AA, prime agriculture, how the county prizes it and wants to protect it, and the comprehensive plan doesn't want any commercial uses, industrial uses. I am a bit concerned and confused at how utility scale solar farms that are basically power plants, commercial, industrial in use, are allowed by special exception on AA land. So I'm very concerned about that, and I'm curious as to if this committee is thinking about possibly pausing application for those to reevaluate if it actually matches the comprehensive plan and the purpose of the stated select agricultural purpose.
Good question. I think Ryan has a comment for us.
Yeah, the commercial solar farms, they fall under kind of the same general category of like public utilities. You know, they're generating power for the grid. You know, they're regulated by the state, et cetera. So public utilities of all types are allowed in all zones. And so whether it's sewer, water, gas, you name it. And power, sewage systems, all of that. So those are permitted in these zones. And so that's sort of the spirit about what, the solar farm is just another form of generating power, just like a coal plant would be. Obviously, two different things, but they're generating the same product for public consumption. And so they kind of fall under a public utility type of banner. Okay. And so that's why they were permitted in the A zone.
So that's a state
level?
That one.
So.
Well, they're allowed in there, but you'd have to get a special exception. So it requires another public hearing in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals, and then they would either vote to allow it or not allow it, depending on public input.
Yeah.
So it'd be your time to either support it or oppose it.
Okay. Yeah, it just seems counter to the stated purpose of the entire plan, as well as the purpose of AA, to protect the prime farmland if you take it out for decades on decades with the solar farm. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to comment? We came here for nothing? No. Any comments, questions from the commission?
Yeah, so I think I have a copy of the letter that was sent out, and so this is a question for staff. In it, I don't see where it states that people have the option to opt out.
We were really, oh, sorry.
No. And I saw contact information, so the phone number was on the bottom. But can you elaborate on that a little bit? It would be a little confusing to me if I received the letter like it wasn't really an option.
Sure. I think the overall message that we really wanted to get across in the letter and the communications was for people to call us and talk to us to understand any concerns that they might have about the rezone. So it was really urging them to contact our office to talk to us, and during that conversation, then we were allowing them to do the opt-out, which we did with those 7 or 8 people.
Okay, so the letter did not have an opt-out?
The
like,
letter did
to
not
opt out, do
say
this?
specifically that you could opt out,
Okay,
no. It
thank
was
you.
urging them to contact us.
Thank you.
I just want to give a brief history lesson. So,
Sure.
Since 1960, this is kind of how we've rolled when it comes to mass rezones that are either instigated by the APC, which this one is, or instigated by a locality. They have complete authority to either the APC or the locality specific to authorize a mass rezoning, and state just requires that it be publicized in the paper, ostensibly. We can't put a trillion rezone signs everywhere. So since 1960, since we've been around, when these efforts have happened, and the last big one that happened was probably in 2018, the 231 corridor plan and rezone, which was all in West Lafayette. And, similar sort of effort, we have sort of a proposed rezone based on what the plan said, and then offer to the property owners, hey, this is what we're doing. As Amanda said, contact us. To a certain extent, whether they want to opt in or opt out, it's like, well, for our part, we wouldn't be doing our jobs if we didn't, if they didn't know what they were opting in or out of. Like, we want to be able to have a conversation to at least educate so they can make an educated decision. And they're perfectly free to say, I've read your ordinances, I know everything, I'm out. Okay, I'm not going to take the conversation much further than that, But there are plenty of folks that just want to know what it is, and you've heard some of them here that like the idea that this effort ultimately is trying to preserve agricultural land, primarily for farming, but livestock, just general ag production use, so that's why this, and for all of the comprehensive plan amendments we've done over the decades, there's usually always an element of trying to, all right, if we've changed the land use plan, let's try to change the zoning to reflect that land use plan. And so we usually lead off with an effort like this, and then contact the owners themselves. So, we're certainly not opposed to a shift in policy, but I just wanted to explain that we didn't just kind of make this up. We've kind of been operating off of how we've been operating for a long time. But we're open to changing. I'm, not opposed to that. But just want to let you know where we were coming from. I certainly a reasonable request for future letters, because this was essentially just phase 1 of this rezoning effort. Our next stage was actually to try to target spots that are currently like non-conforming and try to make them conforming, and then reach out to the owners and say, hey, we're trying to help you out here, and go through the same exercise. But within that potential letter, we could make it very explicit, opt in, opt out, or, Tom, your suggestion of that, which would be kind of a reversal of how we've done things, but it's perfectly reasonable of, that we just assume everybody's out, and that if you want in, contact us. I mean, that's just another way to spin it. So it's, so that's just a little bit of the history there in terms of how we got here. Like I said, the last time we did it was in 2018, so it's kind of been a while. There was another one. The City of Lafayette did the North Monon neighborhood mass rezone area, that entire northern part of the city. Similar sort of effort, and I think the city, they did their work and, reached out to folks to try to get a lot of the non-conforming homes there into a conforming zone. Not everybody responded, that'd be a real high bar to see that, every single property owner has checked in with us, so we're trying to thread the needle here and, make sure we've done our best to get the public outreach done. And at the same time, try to, establish, try to see policy, in this case that the commissioners adopted, of they kind of wanted this green belt surrounding the urban area of protected farmland. And so, this is why we're here, so.
And this simply protects it more.
Yeah, in the zone. But remember, it's only a zoning, rezoning application away from being turned into I-3 for an SK Hynix. Every property owner enjoys the right to submit a rezone petition.
We saw how that went.
Right, yeah.
It was
I
not
had to
very
bring
easy.
it up. Yeah.
So it wasn't very easy.
I
Yeah,
guess
so it's permanent until it's rezoned again. So, yeah.
Pardon me? Go ahead.
No, I guess I should have started with thank you for preserving in the efforts that you and staff have put together on this. I don't know if it's customary or not. Is there anything burning for this to move in the next 30 days?
No.
Or?
No, so I ultimately want to form a coalition of the willing here, folks that see value in having their land switched to this zone, and let's get them on board.
So what I'd like to recommend, and this is more of a discussion because we're going to run out of time here in 11 minutes.
Up on 6.
So I'd like to punt it, and I can pick a date of 90 days out. And the reason for that is because that allows time for it to come back and push this back to ordinance for a discussion of things that we might like to see. For example, if we want another letter to go out for an opt-in, opt-out, a little more clarity, change it to what Commissioner Murtaugh has said,
Yeah, I like that
whatever
idea.
it is, and so that we can round table it, if you will, or rectangle, I guess, and have a discussion, because I think the intent is great, and I really appreciated the Tucker Farms comments. I appreciated all of those, and I think everybody's here with good intentions. I just want to make sure that we're doing it the right way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, if you guys want to have that discussion about how we do this kind of outreach and maybe perfect a template.
I think that's good. If
I
that
want to
you all
ask
can live
everybody
with.
here
Why don't you
before I
put it
make
on-
that.
Put it on the floor and then we'll discuss it.
I'll put that motion on the floor. 90 days.
90 days, but it could be on the agenda next month, the continued discussion, but we won't take action for 90 days. Is that
Correct.
kind of your?
So table it at ordinance committee for 90 days?
No. It'll be on the agenda next month. We'll continue to talk about it, but
Okay.
we're not going to take action for 90 days.
Okay.
Just continue the conversation
Yeah,
for 90
continue
days.
the conversation.
Yeah.
We may get different input. We may
Yeah.
have different ideas. It's kind of hard to decide this the right
Yeah.
way very
Yeah.
quickly, so.
Yeah, so this would be, I guess, if all works out perfectly, it would go on the August APC meeting.
It's already advertised, maybe it just can be continued, so it's already public.
Yeah, I'll
so
lean on
that's-
staff on what the best process for that is.
So, yeah, let's get the motion on the second for that motion. So we have a motion to continue this to the August ordinance committee. If we pass it forward, then we'll hear it at the August APC, but we will continue to discuss it at ordinance committee as needed. We get input. So if I get a second on that motion, so I have a motion and a second, August, to consider pushing it on, not that it will, but we'll discuss it every month, get input. Any discussion on that motion?
Sounds good.
So, a motion and a second?
Well, just a quick question. So at next month's ordinance, we'll discuss whether we think a second letter should go out, that type of thing.
Or opt-in, opt-out, maybe we'll have more public input. This is
Yes.
kind
Yeah.
of dropping on, I know people came in not knowing what to expect, and neither did we.
Yeah.
And perhaps, if, have permission to certify the letters so that
Exactly.
it's crystal clear they got them, they signed off, they didn't respond. I mean,
Right.
then we would have physical proof that everybody got the letter.
So my thought process, and I'd like everybody's opinion on the time frame. So my thought process, we're going to meet roughly 30 days from now. We'll decide, hopefully at the conclusion of that meeting, what our plan is. Let's say in the next week, letters go out. So that would be 7 days. That leaves, call it 21 days, if you will, remaining for those people to make plans to attend the next ordinance meeting to discuss prior to, is that fair? Is that,
I
am I
think it's
thinking?
very good. It
Okay.
doesn't mean we have to do anything in 90
Right.
days, that's just the minimum.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Any other comments from the audience on that particular
Assuming
issue?
Staff will be here to take opt-outs.
Yeah, they're here.
Well, I know, but whether they're.
Auto, please.
Just a question, is another letter
hold on. There you go.
Just a question, is another letter going to go out now to property owners?
I would say we don't know that
We
until
don't know
next
that.
meeting, and we discuss it. Maybe we'll have some more feedback that it was unclear, they need more clarity. So that's why we want to discuss it again. Okay? Thank you. Any other comments on that? We have a motion. We're moving on. Last item on the agenda, citizens' comments. Any general comments? We have someone. Very good.
I'm Kenny McClary, 942 Chepstow Lane, West Lafayette, Indiana, Shelby Township. I'll keep this brief. First, compliments to the group for the hard work you've gone into this ordinance change. That's a long pedigree of this group working hard to try to balance growing community, economic development, property rights, preservation of prime farmland, and agribusiness. I'm a firsthand experience of this. I've had one of the very first rural estates that was put in place back when that was a first of its kind type of zoning designation. It's resulted in attractive rural residential development while still preserving prime farmland in Shelby Township. This balance of RE zoning, though, that was set up to protect prime croplands and create good residential developments is now at risk of being upset. You've heard earlier about solar farms. Very large solar utility scale projects introduce expansive commercial and industrial land use into an environment where crop farms and residences now exist side by side quite well. Large portions of Shelby Township land use have become very similar to the land use we talked about in the two townships today. Your talents are now needed to turn to ordinance measures needed to prevent the negative impacts of all types of utility solar projects, large scale, from impacting all of our county rural townships. UZO 99, the solar ordinance amended created in 2021, is doing a good job of putting smart and well-designed smaller solar projects in place throughout our county on commercial properties. However, utility solar projects are targeting large expanses of agricultural prime zone lands in Shelby Township, which are now ringed by rural residential clusters as well as individual homes. The current requirements of UZO 99 did not anticipate 2,000, 6,000, or 13,000 acre solar complexes like we see in our neighboring counties. Such large projects require new ordinance controls to protect county infrastructure, protect the adjacent homeowner property values, protect the participants' owners' property values, the environmental risks, the fire safety risk, and many other aspects. In addition, utility-scale solar projects are being conducted under long-term leases and involve installing and the removal of systems that have fixed lifespans. These realities present new issues at the end of the lifespan of these assets to make sure that all county parties, including the county infrastructure itself involved, are protected when the solar companies leave town. Our group opposing the proposed Rainbow Trout solar project that's been advertised have identified many aspects which need to be addressed in UZO 99 before any utility solar scale project is considered or approved. We have drawn from many different resources, surrounding counties, guidelines from Indiana legislation that were passed in 2022, and ordinance studies from Purdue University and Michigan State University. Most importantly, this information that we've gathered includes the painful learning experiences that our neighboring counties who have now been through the construction and startup of these very large solar complexes over the last 4 years since UZO 99 was created. I urge the APC Executive Committee and the full Ordinance and Bylaw Committee to work with your commissioners who heard about our concerns earlier this week to get the revision process for UZO 99 started now. Please support your commissioners in establishing, if necessary, a temporary moratorium on utility-scale solar project approvals to allow this good staff the time to address the issue and give it the attention it deserves. If you're very willing, our association that's been formed of the Concerned Citizens for the Rainbow Trout Project can provide you further information, share with you our own research, as well as get you connected with other representatives from our neighboring counties who are experiencing the pain of not having the right ordinances in place before approving one of these projects. Thank you for your attention. I'll have a written copy for you, Kevin.
Very good, thank you. Any other citizens' comments? Any comments from the commission on his comments? He did bring up a good point, because I remember when we wrote the solar panel, it was kind of a new industry and we really didn't know. I don't know, maybe it's time to look at that, but we did took zoning out for wind farms for the reason of we did not want it to restrict growth, because you could put a wind farm in that may be there for 50, 75 years, and you've taken a large tract of land out of area for development. So there's a balance between prime farmland and development. So maybe we want to look at that. I don't know what your thoughts are, looking at solar farms. Now that there's more information, I don't know what it is. I don't have an opinion on it, but there's more information out there.
I mean, it does not address road use, which maybe we have heard from White County that was an issue that, obviously wind turbines had a significant impact on roadways, but it was not considered for solar. But in fact, in White County, they had some significant road damage for that. So that is one component.
So maybe we can talk about that next month, maybe put something on the agenda where we'll revisit that. Any other comments from the commission? If not, it's 6 o'clock, ready for that final motion.
I move to adjourn.
Could I have 1 minute, please?
1 minute.
Victor Gervais, Applewood subdivision out in Shelby County, in association with Kenny, who just spoke with you. And it just feels like that they're just, back to the solar farm issue, they're just like they're cramming it down our throats, like they've got bases covered that we didn't even know about, getting lease agreements where that they couldn't even show who the people were who were leasing their properties. And I just want my two cents. If we look at our nice, beautiful home and we look across the street and they're already drilling out there, taking soil samples, and they don't even have an application in for this project yet. And so did they feel like, did they get a green light? So I just wanted to add that. So.
That'll still, my understanding is that still needs to come in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals to get a special exception. So that'll invoke a public hearing, and that's when we'll hear the case, whether they get approval. So they don't have approval at this time. They're just probably doing some, is it feasible? They're in the feasible stage. So appreciate your comments.
But that's our track. We need to wait to that point. We can't get ahead of it.
I don't know how you could get ahead of that. So, nope.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? We're down to past our time. 1 minute, please.
I'll be so fast. I'm Catherine Soborowski at 938 Chepstow with Kenny and some of the other folks my husband spoke earlier. We're asking you to get ahead of it with a moratorium. So the corporation is here there any day to file an application. And if they do file, they're grandfathered into the current ordinance. But you could say, let's stop. And I'm not saying they can't ever come to our county. I'm not saying we don't want them in the county. I'm just saying, let's at least take a pause, take a breather, make sure we have the ordinance we want. All we need is that little time, it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, it doesn't have to be some expansive thing, and it's not an absolute no to them. It's just, it's going really fast and nobody has information yet, and you can get ahead of it if you stop them before the application comes in. So you do have time now, but I don't know how much.
We could put it on the agenda for next month and talk about it, but there still is a public hearing before they get approval. So they can start, but they're not approved. Thank you. I think we're done.
We're adjourned.
We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Go to bed at night.
I just. You know, but I'm